Why Reddit for B2B? I think we'll be going around this a lot. So there's 7 big reasons. By the end of this, I think you're going to be convinced that Reddit is probably the most underrated channel for B2B if you're not already doing it. If you haven't seen any of my videos before, for some context, I basically run a newsletter where I'm trying to push GTM autonomy as far as possible and just like document my findings of basically building this GTM engine. A lot of that will be through a custom harness that I'm using for the company that I run called Scale Intelligence. So I'll be using that a lot for the data infrastructure, but just keep in mind, like, on OpenClaw, you have Apify, you have like various of these brands, you can do a lot of the same thing. So just apply the methods to whatever tool choice you use. So this is the first point. So I want to go over the first underrated method is basically scraping pain points for GTM data. So a lot of the front-end methods of basically automating GTM, a lot of people that have done automated ads would have seen this. A lot of the frontier tools that are doing automated LinkedIn posts do this, is they're basically scraping the whole of Reddit based on a ICP. So for example, your ICP could be software engineers. They're scraping the whole of Reddit for that. And they're basically finding people and pain points, and then basically creating a data pool of that, and then using that data to sell back to them. I can show you an example with my harness. So hey, based on my TAM, my total addressable market, can you create a list of pain points and then sort them with example posts with real quotes in the top 3 to 5 that solve that pain point? A big one is fragmented GTM tooling. So this is just me scraping tons of Reddit posts and just saying like, hey, some people are saying right now their GTM tooling is kind of held together with manual glue. So what I do is I basically take those posts and then you can put it into something like Claude. Hey, I'm creating a webinar based on the Reddit pain points that I've attached in that photo. Can you basically create a webinar around that? And then I gave it a HTML file with my kind of branding. So the kind of idea is to find the other pain points, then use that to sell things back to them. For example, I'm doing a webinar, but there's loads of ways you can do this. So that is point 1. And a stat that I'm going to include in each one is 23% of decision makers have used Reddit for research. So it's a lot more than just anonymous developers on Reddit. The next one is AI search, and I think this one's a bit obvious. I think everyone knows AI search is good for Reddit, so I wanted to get it out of the way up front. But something to keep in mind is AI search picks up Reddit really well, and I think Nit wants to show some examples of basically how he's been using AI search and Reddit to like rank within 1 week, which is pretty insane. Nit, do you want to share your screen on the Google Meet?
Thanks, Aman. Hey guys, great to be here. Yeah, I'll be quickly walk you through a few examples on how we approach these 4 brands. The first thing to understand is that Reddit doesn't work like a traditional advertising platform. Like you can't create one promotional post and copy paste it across different companies and expect it to perform. And there's a concept commonly referred to as like 90-10 rule. So the basic idea is that around 90% of your contribution should be about providing value to the community, and then the remaining 10% can be related to your brand. If you look at this post here, there's something we create for one of our brands. The entire post is like focused on providing useful information about the topic, and we're not immediately trying to sell anything. And then naturally within the discussion, we mention the brand, taking any existing hot topic that is already getting a lot of attention in any certain domain. So for example, you can see this topic here, this was getting a lot of attention a couple of weeks ago. And instead of simply saying, here's our newsletter, go subscribe, we build the entire post around the topic itself. And then within that content, you can naturally introduce your newsletter or your website or another resource that is actually relevant to the discussion. And you can see this, like this post generate a significant amount of engagement as well. And that's what makes Reddit different from traditional paid advertising, because you're not just putting your message in front of people, you are like you are engaging in a conversation that already exists, and you are contributing something useful and building credibility around your brand over time. And when you do that constantly over a period of time, you can get the engagement on Reddit, build a stronger community presence, and potentially run that content into a long-term asset for both traditional searches and AI searches as well.
Nice. Just to clarify as well, I think if with the AI search stuff, you can post into developer communities and like non-branded communities to your niche, and you can rank within keywords which are more B2B and corporate. So it doesn't have to be so developer focused. So part 3 is community content. I think this is the same sort of idea. It's kind of the same as search, but I think it's worth mentioning. Like if something's recommended within a community, like 73% of B2B decision makers are quite likely to check it. So there's a lot of things you can do around community content. But kind of what Nit was saying before, I think one of the more undervalued things is really checking the SOP. So like every subreddit is going to have like a standard operating it's kind of like a set of rules like that you have to engage with. Like I'm sure it's the same with any of the GTM communities like Pavilion, etc. But I think for Reddit, there are ways where you can scrape it and you can sort of start to build understandings of how you can start to automate a lot of content, but then still fit inside those rules. The next thing is kind of finding high intent leads. So there's another example where like if you just scrape a ton of Reddit data and use like, hey, create a TAM report based on my ICP, and then basically I can just say, hey, cool, based on my TAM, which communities are there and what do they post about, and are there any high intent leads? So for example here, there's just tons of different people that are actually posting about solutions that we sell for. So you can literally click on them and then you can cold outbound to them directly. Or there are different ways you can do, which are a little bit more frontier, where you basically de-anonymize them and find out their LinkedIn or a phone number, etc. The next part is like building a community. So I think this is what me and Nit have done quite well. I think the benefit of building a community is oftentimes it's like really hard to, even if you do a lot of automated stuff and even if you post on Reddit every day, like it's really hard to not get banned. And I think if you build that community, one, you're going to build a lot of trust for yourself, but two, you kind of own it. So you can kind of say like, hey, if I want to do a ad about AI search, or if I want to do an ad, I'm going to post a ad. If I'm going to do a geo citation, I'm going to do that. And at least in my experience, I think it's just like, hey, you just need to post consistently, and it's organic reach is actually really good. But yeah, like another stat, 100,000 active communities in Reddit. We're coming up to the last two. If you don't have the patience to basically build a community, another really good insight is, especially for these like B2B ones, is you can actually partner with them. So we actually message a lot of the mods, and we can see if like, hey, do you want to do a webinar, like maybe a paid promotion, etc. And a lot of these meta mods are very welcoming. And the last one is competitor intelligence. So the same ways you can kind of see me before, where I was scraping a lot of Reddit, building out like a data set of the kind of people that would be engaging with my types of pain points. Within that data, there's going to be kinds of things that people are talking about competitors. So there might be like a pain point for, hey, I don't like this CRM, or hey, I don't like this feature. And then you can basically scrape that and kind of use it for outbound. If you're interested in this, I'm happy to answer any questions about anything to do with automated Reddit. And if you got any value from this, my mission on this channel is to basically take GTM engineering as far as it can go. And that's level 5 for anyone that saw my framework video. And bi-weekly, I'm republishing the best methods and findings from building this GTM engine. And a lot of this, for full disclosure, is going to be into my platform, Scale Intelligence. It basically provides the best buyer, signal, and GTM data for my agents and GTM team in real time. So we can automate things like lead generation, outbound, marketing, my CRM, etc., etc. Let me know in the comments any topics you'd like me to cover, and you can check out my newsletter for all my findings below.